Okay, so we are watching a round 7 elimination, so 2 rounds to go. The winner of this will face Bughouse Knight, and we have International Master SpinalTap against Fix Bughouse Legend MiniGreat. Um, this is game 2. This match started quite late because MiniGreat forgot about the match. Interesting approach here from SpinalTap. Not quite sure the idea. This would be good in Bughouse if you had another pawn coming, but here, what's the idea? Takes, 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 takes. Maybe black can claim he has some pieces in hand to do some interesting things. But yeah, black seems to be doing fine. And it's a rather stable position. So while it's still stable, let's just quickly look at what happened in game 1. Game 1, very strange move, c5 from MiniGreat. Because c7 is weak when you push c5. Lots of weaknesses in black's position, so white's doing quite nicely. Now, what's the idea of this? It seems to be a trick. If bishop takes knight, I'm going to have to look at the engine. I mean, I don't have to, but I think it's better if I do. Yeah, but what's the idea? What was he actually thinking? Knight takes f6. Oh, okay, yes, that's what he was thinking. The queen is overloaded. So there's a knight takes f6 idea. Okay, interesting. So you get 2 pawns for that knight. Okay, now that's actually quite sensible. Black goes here, and here white's apparently goes wrong a little bit. Apparently should just go straight in for the attack, but okay, this is what happened. Trades a lot of pieces. White's going wrong, but apparently in this position, the king should just hide away on h8, I think. But okay, it went this way, and then this is apparently is now again good for white. And oof, a momentary slip. Apparently this is also not good because of f5, and apparently the king's finding some safety. So the correct move was rook at g3, also giving coverage of g2. But at f5 apparently is not good. How strange. Why can't you just block? Because then you're promoting to a queen. Okay. So why is f5 so? Why can't we just go rook at g3 now? What's the problem? Then at g5, then promote to queen. I don't. Apparently, black is doing fine here. Just because we didn't use that pawn, having that pawn in hand, and I don't understand why. But okay, that's what the engine thinks. So this is what happened in game 1, and that was checkmate. Okay, so let's get into game 2 before it's too late. So we left game 2 around this well, we've gone a bit further around this position here. So we said it was quite a stable position. Nothing, yeah, still a pretty stable position. Looks fairly equal. Black trying to take on c2, white protecting c2 while hitting a3 as well. But a3 is protected, so black rightly ignores it. MiniGreat covers the hole on b2, takes on c2 anyway, and the idea is try and get in on d3. But okay, I was thinking knight would go. And both sides playing at some pace because they're just basically playing 30 seconds plus 2-second increment at this point. Okay, SpinalTap wants a pawn. Where does he want to put that pawn? We won't find out ever because he's denied. Good move from MiniGreat. Creative. he wants to do something with the knight. So queen takes pawn, knight takes rook. So rook just goes out the way. But the knight has places to go, things to do. You can swing back and hit g2, for example. And it's going to. Queen f1 will come, and then very fast play from both players. I mean, it's very simplistic. Just try and get a queen. But neither side's really defending. Oh, okay. And I think MiniGreat's got this now. He's found a hook for his knight, and g6 is unprotected. So that's it. That's all over. King goes here, queen takes pawn, pawn here is mate. There's nothing else you can do. King here, and queen swings across, checkmate. I'll just leave that final position open. Queen at f7 takes e7. So all those squares around the king are not defended. g6, f7, d7. So the queen is landing on f7 and just taking whatever it wants. So I'm sure that that was full of blunders in low time. Didn't feel like either player was playing particularly accurately. And there's increments, so you don't have to go all out for the flag, as it were. But both players playing really as quickly as possible and keeping the same tempo when maybe they could have taken longer. So this is quite normal. The bishop fianchettos on g7, and g5 is a little bit of a hook for white to try and make something happen in black's position, but it goes both ways. g5 is also a great attacking piece for black to get a hook into white's position. So it's supporting some kind of outpost on h4, for example. So it's a double-edged move, this pawn on g5. And the point is, if ever h4, that weakens g3, and black could even just go g4 to avoid it. So, but there are sometimes ideas of attacking this pawn. So, very standard looking position. Both sides fighting for control. So black gets control of the diagonal, but white gets control of the square he wants. Hard to assess exactly who's winning, but so yeah, SpinalTap with the decision to make. Did we waste our time putting our knight here, and should we retreat? Which is actually not a bad move at all. Or should we sack our knight for a pawn? And I think that is probably slightly stronger, because there are a lot of dark square weaknesses in black's position, and so it's worth the sack. And notice the knight can't even take this bishop because of it's pinned. Oh my goodness. So he's dropping his queen for a piece. And why didn't he take this one? Because this one you can just recapture. Whereas this one was much more scary. Oh, okay. MiniGreat with the tactics. So he's giving away his... Oh, and SpinalTap with the counter tactic. Okay, yes. You're not winning my rook for free. Don't even think about it. So I think he missed. Knight takes d3. That might have been even stronger. And maybe white would have to give up the queen, but then bishop takes might be a mate threat on e2. So black gets first move, but it's not clear he can just attack. With 2 knights and a rook, he doesn't really have anything. And his own king is not so safe until it's castled. So he does sort of simple looking move, just covering the knight checks. The pawn checks are already covered. So what am I doing? Yeah, the pawn checks already covered. So that's all the important squares covered. The pin is annoying. You might have to do something like put a rook down on c6 just to try and block the pin. Not sure I understand this move because you just drop. What's the idea? And the rook was a really good piece because it was the one piece that could defend these 2 checking squares. Unless you just want to castle. That's the other approach, which is reasonable. Although the H file is open, so it's reasonable, but it's yeah, it's not such a good idea at all, because at f6 would come. Okay, so this is completely useless. Bishop takes, and knight here picks up the rook for free. SpinalTap finds something else. Knight f6. What's the idea? If takes, you're both threatening mate and queen takes rook. That looks pretty nasty. And this position. Well, white's doing very nicely, but it's a question of how to convert. Takes a bishop. What's the idea? Take a pawn if you ever want it. You could take a knight with check if you ever want it. Although it might come with a loss of tempo, unless your queen has somewhere to go. Oh, but then there's, yeah. So you might want to take the pawn first. So yeah, white should be doing very well here, but just has to find the right moves. Yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't take on b7 first. Oh, but this is a good find. Okay, so you get the rook. You get the rook and your king is safe. Okay, and now you're threatening mate again. So that's easy enough. What's the finish? I mean, king takes knight is a lazy approach. Threatening knight here and queen takes pawn checkmate after bishop takes. Is there anything more direct? I don't understand this move at all, but okay. There's knight here, check, and queen takes rook. Oh, he doesn't have a knight. Okay, sorry. So he's looking for a knight. Not sure. What is he thinking? But he has enough just to go in and get the mate now. Just even queen takes knight. It's going to be enough to mate. Queen takes knight because you want the g6 square free for the knight, and he doesn't find it because knight here would be checkmate, covering the rook. Okay, he's completely fine anyway. Just taking all the pieces. Okay, so he's lost a queen, and he's only got 5 seconds on the clock. And his king is not so safe, but I think he should still be fine. Just needs to find the right continuation now. 3 seconds. Knight is covered. Knight check is covered. Right. Okay. So takes. Why is this so difficult? This is hard work for SpinalTap when he basically had a mate some time ago. So rook takes rook. I think he's worried about queen takes rook. Would probably be mating then. So that's why black defends. Takes. Okay, can we get a mate now? Goes to the back rank. Draw him up, and then a pawn and a rook mate. Okay, this. Oh, actually, sorry, the knight covers. Okay, come on, we're going to find this now. Knight here, this is covered. How do we finish it? Ah, nice finish. Okay, queen takes his mate. So just to back up a little bit, in this position here, just wanted to say queen takes knight is the move, because if king goes straight to a8, knight here check his mate, and if rook takes, then bishop takes, king here, then knight here is also checkmate. Oh, the rook was already defended actually, but nicely it defends it again. And if the king goes this way, this is also mate. So whichever way the king goes, knight g6 is mate. But you needed to move the queen from g6 to make that mate work. But thankfully for SpinalTap, he finds the win. And just having a look at game 4. This is the current position. So we have a knight in the opponent half of the board, but it's not supported. And I'll just check if anyone else is streaming on Lichess at the moment. A couple of other people streaming on Lichess. It's a late night match. So he backed off the knight, and now white's is advancing, with even contemplating sacks on f7. So important to move e6 just to give the king some left on e7. Not so easy to mate the king on e7. If you imagine this position before e6, knight takes f7, king takes, and a knight check here. The king can't come up to g6 because of the queen, it can't come to e6 because of the knight. You'd have to step back down, and you're just mated by a couple of pawns. A pawn on e6 and a pawn on f7 mate you. So e6, important move to just give your king a little bit of left and to develop your dark squared bishop. So you want white to go queen takes c3 and then go bishop b4. This is like hope chess. But if he doesn't do that, what was the idea? Just, yeah, to undermine d4. That was the idea. And he was successful in that endeavor. And now he's got a choice. He's going to spend a while here, because do I take the pawn? Do I take the rook? Do I just take the queen? Too many choices. But yeah, going for the rook seems sensible, because it hits the bishop as well, so white had to defend. And now white's pieces are like on the... He had to waste a knight defending on the queen side. And now black can just go back and chill. My king is safe, and I'm up 2 pawns or something. You could say and in exchange, but in Crazyhouse, obviously, rooks are worth pretty much the same as the knight he's sacrificed. So just to go right back to the beginning again. So this was all sensible. Just trying to remember when he sacrificed the knight. Ah yes, he sacrificed the knight here. So he's got a couple of pawns for the knight, but then he also got the rook for the knight. So in terms of material, black is very happy indeed. So he just needs to turn it into a chess game and say, I've got extra chess material, and make sure he doesn't create weaknesses, and then this is black's game. And he's doing a good job actually, because if you look at what are the weaknesses in the black's position, there are none. Whereas the weakness in the white position, c3 is a weakness, and that's it for now. But c3 is a weakness. I mean, what's going to be a weakness in black's position is if you push this, h6 would become a weakness. So he's pushing this instead, so f5 is now a weakness. But he could just go queen d7, and he doesn't mind the queen trade, I don't think. His king is safe. I think black's main weakness is the clock. Okay, so h6 is going to be a weakness. So black will want to play h6 himself as soon as possible. And now what is black's only weakness? Actually f6 now. f6 is the only weak square in black's position. And h6. He's going to have to fix h6. And c3 is the only square in white's position, which really doesn't matter because it's not near the king. So future point, he's going to fix h6, so f6 will be the future weakness. What's the future weakness in white's position? It'll probably be f3. This is sort of like seeing into the future. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, f3 is going to be the weakness. f3 is going to be the try and get in on f3. Okay, castles. And you can see the problem with this f4 move. Okay, so it opens up the rook file, but creates a weakness here. It allowed this pawn to push, and it also blocked off this bishop from h6. So not ideal. But SpinalTap having to play quickly. He's got lots of material. He's got a very safe king. One potential weakness, because he's put the rook on the third rank, not on the back rank, there could in future be some back rank weaknesses. Like simply pawn at d7 is suddenly a weakness. Could win a piece for a pawn on d7. He doesn't get it, doesn't find that. I mean, the problem with it is that if takes, the back rank is strengthened, rook could come in here. Yeah. You might lose a pawn, but black would get some activity. Okay, so all this talk of weaknesses, SpinalTap still got a safe position. For now, I mean, this is a problem. Rook at d8 is still always kind of annoying. You have to go knight at e8 to block it. Or counterattack, which is what he's doing. Yep, he's just counterattacking. And is it a mate? Yes. Yes, it's a mate. It was, so if we just open it on the small board, the mate is queen at f2. So, and if the king slides over to h1, he had a knight in hand to drop on g3, using the fact that h pawn is pinned. So that's why white resigned. So with that, SpinalTap takes a 3-1 lead. And so we're into game 5. We'll just play through the first moves again. So playing a kind of London system with a very early h4. And moving the bishop twice in the opening. So disobeying all the rules. Hi there, apostatlet. Greetings. So how are you finding the Crazyhouse World Championship games? And have you caught any of the other ones? So bishop takes knight with check is not really something you want to allow. So that's why f6 was, yeah, dubious. So the white, I mean, what black is already lost here. I mean, can you believe this in just already a few moves? How can black already be lost? I mean, h5, you've pushed, okay, so he's pushed the f pawn and the h pawn, so g6 is weak. So he's already lost because, so why does white go c4? He's just getting a pawn in hand. There are just too many weaknesses in the black position. He can even allow this to be taken, but do something on on these light squares. Okay, so it's not something, it's not like an immediate knockout blow, but it's something, these weaknesses will take pawns to fix, and pawns take time to pick up, and then if you use pawns to fix your position, you can't use pawns to attack, and so on. So, having said that, I just realized, well, black at some point could go f5 and have like a two-layer defense. You have one layer of pawns in the center of the board, and the other layer of pawns near your king, and you have this sort of two-layer defense, two layers of pawns, and that could have been actually an interesting approach. If we just go back to this position here, yeah, f5, because the light squares were so weak, was the dark squares were defended quite well, you know, with the bishop and the queen and this pawn. f5 looked, positionally at least, quite interesting. Maybe not, maybe there are weaknesses with it, but it looked positionally at least very interesting, and also pressure on h4. Probably pawn at g5 would come though. But with this move, why does, okay, I see, it can't take because it's pinned. Yeah, that's the problem. That's really annoying. The g6 weakness is being brutalized. And like I said, he's just picking up pawns. Pawns are very important. So to get the attack going. So an idea might be at h7. You just okay. That was a resignation in disgust. So if we just look at, if you just take that knight, what is the queen takes d5 blocks, king h8, knight at f7. Oh, you're picking up the queen with check. That's the problem. Queen at g8. So that's why the resignation in disgust. And if you don't take the knight, if you just did nothing, the move apparently is, yeah, knight at f7 is interesting because it threatens mate in 1 at h7 checkmate is the idea. But if you take it, you're giving a rook. Well, so this is knight takes f6 is interesting. So you're picking up a queen with check, and queen is landing on h7 is the idea. So okay, MiniGreat resigns in disgust, and SpinalTap takes a 4-1 lead. So Apostat says, I haven't seen any before these. Is there info on the format somewhere? Is it an elimination bracket? It's a double elimination, but we are now at the elimination bracket stage. So how do I say it? So it's a double elimination means if a player loses twice, then they're knocked out. And we're now at the stage where every player has lost at least once, or if they haven't lost at all, they're already in the candidates. So we're already at the stage where both of these players, SpinalTap and MiniGreat, have lost at least once. And so if they lose this match, then they're out. And Apostat says, your commentary is very helpful. I play a lot of variants, but had a bit of a break from Crazyhouse, but recently got into it again. Haven't really studied any theory, though. Yeah, I wouldn't study theory. It's all about the missed mates, Crazyhouse. I'd miss many of the ideas behind these moves without your commentary. Thanks. And thanks, not okay, aka my son never called me, for providing the link to the Lichess team page, which has all the information. You can also just check out the blog, and that will have information from previous years and a guide to Crazyhouse and stuff like this. I'm just gonna back up this game, go a little bit more slowly. So we've seen this opening before. Takes. Yeah. So theories not so important in the sense that you don't want a lost position from the opening, but what's really important is seeing mating patterns. So in this position here, I would often be tempted for something like this, but the problem would be takes and knight h5 hitting g7 with the counterattack. That's White's idea. So SpinalTap, he's a chess player, so he's sort of slightly sometimes conserving his material. And this is a nice move because this pawn is pinned. So interesting, he's quite happy to give away a piece for a pawn. So I mean, the big thing between Crazyhouse and normal chess is pawns are much more valuable because you could drop a pawn on the 7th rank. So So pieces are worth double pawns rather than 3 times as much as pawns, and rooks are worth usually much the same as pieces, and queens are not quite as valuable. After all, you can get queens. After all, the reason why queens are not so valuable is, after all, if you lose your queen, you've got that queen coming against you. So suddenly that queen is not such a great asset. So very important here, use sidestep, because if you take, you're risking like knight at here and all kinds of counter checks. So you'd always want to sidestep something like this without even thinking, probably. So if we look at the clocks, you'd sidestep that without even thinking, because then there are no checks. You want to go to a square where the king cannot be checked easily. Because if your opponent can check you, he can just drop all his pieces on the board with initiative. Okay, at h3, very nice move. Just getting in on g2. Knight defends, very good. And the question is how to continue. Ooh, I missed this one. This looks like SpinalTap could get mated here. This is incredibly dangerous, because 2 knights and a pawn would mate. Because a knight controls the dark squares. If you step back, a pawn can control the light squares. So this is incredibly dangerous. The question is, do you swing the knight back, or do you use your existing knight? And he decides to swing the knight back. So I think the reason for that is because otherwise the king could hide away on h7. Yeah, now this is going to be mate. How? Yeah, maybe not. So the problem is pawn, king here, and then I don't see the next check. I think it might still be mate, but you have to be cunning. You have to do something like knight f8 takes, and at g6 mate. So you have to throw away this knight. Yeah, so this is mate. He just has to find it, MiniGreat. So, but he should have done it earlier. He should have done it in this position here. He needed this new knight to defend this knight, because he needs to defend this g6 square, and he's missed it now. And SpinalTap. Oh, he's got a second chance. He has to defend it now. Okay. Knight here. If the king comes up, bishop at f7. If the king comes up here, you just put another knight on. And the king is being driven up the board. Oh, he misses it. Okay, I'll show you after the game. So that's the thing. These are both much stronger players than me, like 2400 plus. But this game is all about checkmating the opponent, and even 2400s can miss mates. And it could be I miscalculated, so I have to say that as well. But if white misses a mate, then see queen at h1 is coming. So it's very sharp. If you miss a mate, your opponent's going to mate you. So SpinalTap MiniGreat better find a mate, otherwise he's getting mated. Either that, or he has to drop a knight on g3 to cover that mate on h1, and it's probably not going to work because then there are other mating ideas like knight at h3, swing back, hitting g2, and so on. Okay, so at least white's putting pieces on the board. So now this square is covered, and if he puts another bishop on, this square will be covered. So he's gradually covering up knight g3, and then so he will be safe even if he doesn't find mate. But of course, you'd like to find mate if you can. So he's driving the king down. Rook here is interesting. King comes down again. Okay, this is good also. Rook here, but you need one more. How are you going to mate a king? Yeah, rook here, bishop takes pawn as mate. That was simple. And he finds it. He finds just a mate with pawns. Very simple. Okay. But I'll just show you the mate slightly earlier. So this is why the king was on f8 to begin with. f8's because once the king is driven up to f7, it's incredibly dangerous. I'll just show you. Yeah, the engine sees it eventually. Knight f to e5, king g8. At f7, king h7. You then, I thought you throw away this knight. Okay, apparently not. Apparently you put a new knight here. Takes. Huh. Okay, I didn't expect this. Bishop at g8. Rook takes, pawn takes, and now we have a rook in hand, and the rook at h8 is going to be mate. Okay, so I completely missed this idea. And why doesn't just knight f8 work? Rook takes f8, and I was thinking, huh, that's why it doesn't work. Rook takes, And I thought this was mate, and I just completely missed. After rook takes f8, the king has a square to run to. So, wow. So you have to be really careful. So, okay, what he found in the end, White never actually gave up the advantage. He always had a mate, and he eventually found it. So, really nice play there for MiniGreat to take the match to 4-2. And I'm going to look at your comment in a second. Let's just quickly catch up to the action. It's again a d4, d5 London system this time. Very nice, very solid from White. And Apostat says, I see there's a link on the blog to a site with Crazyhouse puzzles. I've been thinking I should find some. I feel like I lose a lot of my games to tactics. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying. That seem like they are probably very common patterns. Yes, exactly. That's why I say um, tactics are more important than openings. And the first tactic you should learn is the back rank mate in Crazyhouse. And on the blog, there's actually a special blog on the back rank mate in Crazyhouse. Because it's like back rank mate in chess, but there's sometimes ideas of recycling your opponent's rooks off the back rank using drops of your own rooks. So that's a very important theme because it comes out quite a lot. Sometimes you can be completely losing a game, but if you spot a back rank, then you're in. The other major theme is the smother mate, like a castled king. If you have a knight and a queen, obviously you have this smother idea, knight at h6, queen g8 sometimes, if f7 is not covered, if g8 isn't covered. Now, unfortunately, there used to be a video about that on YouTube by another streamer, but unfortunately he took it down. So it's something someone will have to create again at some point. Maybe I will one day. So yeah, there is a site with Crazyhouse puzzles, but there are also many studies on that blog which I created using Lichess studies. This is a smart move from MiniGreat taking here, because this knight could take the rook though, and then we just keep going. I think it's smart. The knight still has things to do, places to go, things to do. But maybe bishop takes knight. I mean, the point is, you don't, yeah. This isn't so bad. Pawn takes bishop. Yeah, so start with the back rank mate. That's a good study to start with. And then there's a corresponding study on Lichess where you can practice against the computer, the back rank mates. So it's quite fun. And there's also, if you like watching videos, I did a video, I got some, I did a video, some of the videos I do the mates myself, sometimes I get someone to try out the mates I've created, make a video of them trying them out on stream, stuff like this. So yeah, I'll just link you to the YouTube. But most of the time, what I'm doing is commentary on top players playing. So I'm not going to pretend. Obviously, the best Crazyhouse streamer is of course Jan Lee when he's streaming. So and it's commenting on his own games. So I'm never pretending to do that myself much. I mean, I do that sometimes, but I'm not pretending that. That's not. If you want to watch someone playing their own games and commentating, you want to watch Jan Lee doing that, obviously. So that's why I do that a little bit, but most of the time what I do is commentating on these top players and hopefully explaining ideas which would be useful to people. And also just entertaining, like even the top players, it's more entertaining to have a stream covering the games than to have to play through the games on Lichess. It's something you can put on in the background and while you're doing something else or whatever. Notice he didn't take this pawn. Why not? Because white is thinking about taking the knight, takes back, and drop a knight here. Takes, and so this king here would be, yes, a liability. Now, bishop g8, that's an incredibly creative move. What's the idea? I mean, the king is trapped, but that's no good. You need to mate it. And the only way you're going to mate it, if you've got a bishop or pawn here, you see these two could actually end up protecting that king. The only way that it's not, So black has one job: make sure a knight does not get to these two squares. As long as a knight doesn't get to those two squares, black is actually incredibly safe. It's a funny thing to say. But maybe another idea white has is simply just to go bishop takes e6 and threaten rook at g8. Those sorts of ideas. Okay, white not being subtle here. Not subtle at all. So we're going to see probably pawn at f7, I guess. Okay, instead he's just like, I'm fed up with this. He doesn't want, what I was suggesting he should do, which he doesn't do, is to use it as a defender. There's a little trick, I don't know if it works. Rook h8 takes, knight takes pawn check, king here. It doesn't, it could work. Rook here check, king here, rook here check, king here, driving the king out. Knight here check, king here. It looked like it was very close to mate, actually. But he didn't do it. But of course, after rook there check, he didn't have to, he could have just, yeah. But I think that was, I don't know, I feel like that was a mischance, but okay. We'll check after the game if I'm just seeing things. What's the idea here? So white's looking for a mate, but yeah, just takes the queen. Takes the queen and says, I'm safe on h1. Oh, that's bad news for black. It's like he's got 4 pieces left. I mean, SpinalTap don't have to do anything much if your opponent's only got 4 pieces left. Just need to put your own pieces on the board. And I mean, you don't need to. What I mean is you don't need to rush to find the most accurate. You just need to make sure you're safe. Just need to. You've got little time to make sure you play moves reasonably quickly. And he's found a nice combination. Okay, but I just want to show a combination which I think he missed, which was after this. He has 2 rooks in hand. Yeah, and the engine agrees with me. Rook at h8. The idea is if you draw the king out, then okay, I've got a rook controlling your whole back rank. Bishop at e8, king here, and knight takes g6. I hadn't seen the whole line, obviously, but this. You're going to be winning the queen with check. I don't need to continue. Like if you can win a queen with check, you're going to end up with mate almost surely. But the idea of this rook at h8 is that when you take it, you now get that king with check. And the right way of continuing is rook at h8 and bishop at e8. So no messing about. I was messing about with where was I? Sorry. I was trying to mess about with rook here, here, rook here, here, and oh, that also works. Bishop here cuts the king off. Okay, so that would also have worked. So that's quite nice. But okay, the neat way of doing it was this. This is a beautiful construction, by the way. The rook, bishop, knight. Nice one. So yeah, this is quite a complicated pattern. So you won't see this pattern very often. But they're much simpler patterns which do come up very often. So you begin to recognize them when you play more. So with that nice mate, rook takes g8 mate, SpinalTap takes a 5-2 lead. And we're seeing this opening again, e6. Now played a little bit earlier than last time, and he's doing this again. So MiniGreat is not going to make the same mistakes as last time, I don't think, because last time he lost his rook. So Apostat says, that was a pretty mate. Nice coordination with knight protecting rook, rook protecting bishop, bishop protecting knight. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah. So I think one of the things some people like about chess is actually the artistry of it. So the idea that you could lose 1,000 games, but if you play one beautiful game or play one game where you beat some really great player like SpinalTap, then you can take a lot of satisfaction from that. And that's the kind of that's what I believe anyway. I'm not the sort of person of I want to win as many games as possible and play 1-0 or something. It's like if you can just play one beautiful game, that's very satisfying. Is this a friendly? Says Happy Paddle. No, this is a round 7 elimination match. Um, so this is competition. Bishop g6 was natural, but maybe he'd just block on e4 and he gets more of a center. So why is he going this? Yeah, he wants a knight. And why does he want a knight? Oh, yeah, I see. So that's why he put his knight here. So the attack. This is a classic chess thing. The attack on the knight on f3 is not really an attack on the knight. It's an attack on the center. So that's why the knight was placed here to try and beef up that center. Ooh, and also this. Okay, very nice. Now here, why doesn't he just go knight takes bishop? Seems a little strange. So queens aren't worth as much, but it still seems strange to give up the queen. Seems really strange. So he's giving up the queen for a piece, but why? So if knight takes, he must have been concerned with moves like knight at d6. No, but you can just take them. That doesn't work at all. What's wrong with knight takes? I'm not getting it. Knight takes, queen takes. Oh, okay, I do get it. So if knight takes, queen takes, white would have another knight drop attacking the queen, and whenever the queen moves, then a knight drop on c7, picking up the rook. So this wasn't harmless to take with the knight, and SpinalTap really likes to be safe. He didn't want his king to be disturbed, and that's why he's giving up the queen just to stop the disturbance on his king. And now he has a counterattack on the queen, taking the queen with check, which is a strong move. He delivers a check, takes the bishop, he's keeping a lot of... He's got to watch out, that's mate in 1. So he defends. No, he hasn't defended yet. He defends now. Both defends and protects his knight, that's good. And he wants at h3 if he gets a chance. And to get to work on these light squares, and knight here will be then a mating idea on g1. Okay, so he's going for bishop takes g2 and this sort of idea, takes the queen. But easy to defend from far away. That's why you often want to drop at h3, because it's harder to defend when the attacker is close. But and the reason why you wouldn't necessarily go straight for h3 would be because you don't have enough support here. So the reason he's going for g4 is because his pieces are working together on f3. You could have gone directly for h3, but SpinalTap is taking the more patient approach. Now something you should notice here, by the way, is that this knight is hanging. Queen takes knight, bishop takes, queen at d8 is mate. So queen takes knight is even a possible move here. Pawn takes pawn. Just take it back. Seems reasonable. Not okay. Queen takes f4. Yes, exactly. So MiniGreat is in the tank. 2-5 down. Must win game. But he's ahead on the clock. What to do, what to do, what to do. He does. He finds it. Takes f3 came. And he's basically saying you don't have anything. If you had a rook or a knight or anything, I'd be mated, but you have nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Oh, 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 oh. The queen is hanging. So here the threat is not sure. Is probably just taking the rook. And then you have a rook or f1 or rook h1. Knight would probably be overloaded. So I'm slightly confused now what's going on. Things have happened. I mean, this square is weak. I'm amazed if white doesn't have mate here, basically. So queen here, bishop here looks like mate. Queen here, bishop here forces the king to here, but then just something like knight at would be mate. Yeah, so bishop here, king here, knight at's not quite mate. No, it's not mate because the bishop and the pawn are both defending. But okay, look, there must be a mate somewhere here. Knight at here, maybe? Look, if there isn't a mate here, I'm amazed. But looks like SpinalTap is running, which is impressive. He has a pawn and a knight to finish the job. Okay, brings the queen back, very smart. The king can't run back. Oh, that's a really good move. Cutting the king off, yeah, I think he's found it now. So he can't come back here because pawn here would be mating. Opening up the rook, that would surely be mating. King is forced to here, doesn't really want to go there. And that's it. That's a really nice mate from MiniGreat. Apostat said, if he was able to drop the rook on h1, would king takes g2 be an option, or is it too lethal because of the knight double check stuff? So I can't remember the exact position, but yeah, rook h1, king takes g2. It would be too lethal if we had, for example, lots of pieces in hand, or if we had some kind of bishop in hand to defend the rook. So we could like go bishop defending the bishop at f3 or something. So you can't take the rook, then you have to either take the bishop or come out even further. And as you're driven out even further, obviously, the more likely you are to get mated in the middle of the board. So another must-win game for MiniGreat. This time is black, and it's a London system. And notice white already has the slight edge here, because playing copycat is not a good idea as black. Because if you take here, you take here. If you take here, you take here. If you take here, oops, it's a check. I can't copy you. And so you end up with your king on f7. This pawn is here, and black could also force white's king to f2, but you'd have to sack an extra pawn to force the king takes f2. So there's a positional compromise, this bishop takes f5, because he's had to admit, I can't copy you anymore, I have to take back with the pawn. It's a slight positional compromise because it's slightly weakened this d5 square. This knight can now come out and threaten the d5 square. Not immediately, because you first want to stop black doing the same thing to you, and that's what he does. Oh, I was expecting, yeah, you could either do that or do knight e2, or do this. This is also good. Why do people take with the pawn in Crazyhouse? It's because actually pawns provide good coverage of the center. If you took with the queen could be hit. So it takes with the pawn, and what's going to happen? I didn't really. This is this is a very kind of I want you to waste your pieces kind of move. I think in this position I'd have simply played this, but this is interesting actually. Just that I want you to waste your pieces move on the. It's not. Okay, so now the problem is the bishop's not so bad on c6 at the end of the day, and I think black's actually doing okay here. So I don't really like this bishop here, bishop back necessarily. Should have just focused on developing, lost the tempo. So not okay says I think there was a bishop on c6 defending g2. Yeah, then takes g2 would be fine in that case. So the knight and the bishop could double check if they did, if he went for king takes g2. Yeah, it's difficult to know exactly what move you mean, because there are many times when that could have happened. Is there a link for results and game schedules? There is. I just open. Okay, I'll just try and see if I can find it. So this is not the full. This is not the full. This is just the last few rounds. Let's see if that works. So upcoming matches, you can see that's the calendar link for upcoming matches. We've just had a crazy Sunday. I streamed 3 hours last night, 3 hours during the day, and now another stream now. So my last few streams on YouTube just streamed a lot of the latest action. We had an amazing match between the finisher and Clearcast, 2.5 hour match almost. And Ganesh, the Swedish Ganesh, so the Ganesh from Fix, who is old has been top 10 Crazyhouse on Lichess, but he used to be the #1 in Crazyhouse before Jan Lee. He joined me in the commentary to commentate on Clearcast against the finisher. So that was exciting, and that was a very high quality match. Yeah, that's why if I leave the game, I'm just worried I won't find the exact point when. But yeah, there were lots of interesting ideas. So what do we think about this position? So I think black is not doing so badly. So one way of assessing a position is saying who's got pieces in whose side of the board. And the other way of assessing a position is to say where the positional weakness is. See how it's interesting. Black has given up on g7 and is focusing on let's make sure I keep f6 safe. But this is just lethal because bishop takes bishop, queen takes, and white's exchanging off black's defenders. Let's see what they're saying in the chat. Came just in time for SpinalTap to put the last nail in the coffin. Strong pawn structure. Only SpinalTap could win by creating isolated double pawn islands in Crazyhouse. Yeah, so the problem is knight here check and bishop g7 mate is a threat. So you take with the pawn, I guess, to keep that threat alive, but bishop g7 comes anyway. Why did that even happen? Why didn't he just take this bishop on g5? Then you have a bishop for g7. I just don't understand it. So if queen takes, knight at f6, bishop at g7. Maybe the king was running away. That was sneaky. That was actually really sneaky. So bishop takes, queen takes. But then you could just put the bishop on g7 first. But okay, maybe there are queen takes g2 ideas. Okay, so what I said about SpinalTap is he does not like to give anything to his opponent. He plays it really safe. And takes, but it means that he doesn't quite get. I don't see any finish though. Seems like, black's as David was saying, just look at these pawns. But they're actually not so bad in Crazyhouse. All you have to focus on is the weaknesses. And g7 is g7 is still a big weakness. And yeah, David is saying you should have just done knight takes f4. Didn't see exactly which point that is, but that's f4. The finisher is indeed from Finland, yep. And Apostat that you are, amazing. So join Team Finland Crazyhouse team. He'll really appreciate it because when you have ZH Nations, Crazyhouse Nations League every Sunday, there's like an arena for 90 minutes. And he's like the only player from Finland, and yet as the single player he takes on like 10 people from Russia and he still like almost beats them. Just on his own. In terms of his total score is almost the same as like the 10 people from Russia. Okay, except he doesn't beat them because 10 people can't be beaten. But he gives them a run for their money. So he would appreciate any help he can get, and he'll give you a lot of training if you join Team Finland, because he needs your help. It's just called Crazyhouse Team Finland, probably. Just check out the Crazyhouse Nations League. It's called ZH Nations Tournaments, and they're every Sunday. The other thing to do, by the way, is just so you can talk to him directly, is just join Discord. If you join that Discord, then he'll join join the Crazyhouse channel as well on the Discord, and you'll be able to chat with people. It's be very helpful. Okay, SpinalTap surviving this. I'm sort of worried for SpinalTap here. Because okay, now I'm worried for MiniGreat. The attack has run out. Well, this is this is intense. With the, okay, so the knight. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, if you had a bishop, that would be interesting. Pawn. This is resourceful from MiniGreat, and I think he might have enough. Just about. His queen is coming out to the party. A rook is landing on g4. That's going to be rook is landing on g2 rather. Yeah, that's it. He sees the end, and he flags because it's mate in 1. King here, pawn here. Wow. I did not expect that. I thought, yeah, SpinalTap was doing really well that game, and then, and I mean, he must have missed so many wins as well. I mean, people were saying takes f4. I'm not quite sure at what point that was, but I mean, the one I saw myself was this position here. This is a crazy looking move. Bishop g5. You just take it, and then h takes is just so. I mean, it just doesn't work. So queen takes is a kind of sneaky idea because you're trying to get your king out like this. Knight at f6. Oh, it doesn't even want to go running king f8. Because of king f8, knight takes h7 is the problem, picking up the queen, which I didn't realize. But this is just really strong. I mean, I was even thinking bishop at g7 takes and pick up the queen. I mean, this is one way of doing it. And so, yeah, that's why I was worried about the king just running out like this, because then it's not so clear what's going on. This knight's defended, so you can even just take this rook. And this is just it's very good. But bishop takes bishop, queen takes, knight here, check, king here. There's something even stronger just taking here. But SpinalTap doesn't do it because he was afraid of any counter ideas. But the counter ideas really aren't any good because at g7 you've got a rook in hand now, rook f8, bishop at g8, takes, just simply takes. Now we have a queen in hand with rook takes bishop coming, knight here, check. There's just too much. I mean, it says mate in 4. It's not an all checks mate, it's just we have all the material. There's nothing to worry about. So yeah, how could you lose this game? Indeed. And so yeah. So even in this position, seems reasonable. But yeah, things got more complicated. And yeah, I mean, this is a really fantastic game. MiniGreat really fighting back. And suddenly, this is the point when I was starting to get worried for SpinalTap, and indeed, minus 70 basically means there is a mate, just haven't seen it yet. Okay, so really exciting game. SpinalTap as black. Can he take it? Or is MiniGreat just getting stronger every game? Yep, I was not kidding. This is a very strange move. You want to usually take with the queen to give your own queen some air. SpinalTap taking with the pawn. Yes, this is a problem. It not only gives your queen air, it also gives your king air. So here, queen takes is fun with the scholar's mate threat. I don't think the international master will fall for that one. But he's got himself into a pickle, has SpinalTap. You know, you can't take with the pawn because this pawn with the f7 pawn because bishop at f7 is mate. Ah, you can't take with the knight because queen takes f7 is mate. I mean, this is embarrassing, right? If you could take knight takes d7, queen takes f7 mate. So you're suddenly giving up a queen. And this is all because he didn't take this way. Actually, it's not all because of that. It's because he... Let's just actually see. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. Yeah, you do take this way. You take this way and then you develop. And instead he takes this way. And the move here is you just back off. You don't need a new bishop because this bishop is then distracted from protecting. But okay. And then here, he didn't really want more trades because more trades just means more pressure on f7. So just backing off was better, I think. Yeah, back off. If you're attacked even, just back off. If you're attacked to the pawn, just back off. And you really want to get in d6, so just this embarrassing game from SpinalTap. Not saying he'll lose, because you can always fight in Crazyhouse, but this is really tough. Can't even take this queen, because at f7 is mating. You've got to defend now against queen takes f7. This is rough. Apostat says, this looks like the type of game I often have. I mean, it looks like a Bughouse game, doesn't it? It's this go straight in for an attack on f7, and usually in Crazyhouse doesn't work quite as well because you haven't got a whole bunch of pieces from a partner. You have to earn your own pieces. So you can't sack set quite as much. Okay, but SpinalTap, as I said, he really likes to be safe. He knows how to defend. I mean, I say that, but on the other hand, this is really bad. This is really bad, but where's the finish? So I quite like. Yeah, this is what I was tempted by. Something with the smother idea. So you take the queen, takes here, king here. I'm tempted by it, but does it work? Because the king is not smothered. Does it work? So simply take here, maybe? And you can't take. Yeah, I don't know if this works. Gosh. It's very tempting, but maybe it wasn't the best thing to do. Check is possible, try and pick up a knight. Oh, that's a nice sneaky move. And Duvid is saying that SpinalTap is up 4 pieces. That's a lot of pieces to be up. Does he mean it? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 3 pieces, no? Anyway, I can't count. He's got 2 knights, 2 bishops, another knight, another bishop. Yeah, so... Okay, up 4 pieces, he's up 2 pieces means he's up 4 pieces, yeah. So if you've got 2 more pieces means your opponent's got 2 less pieces. It's that calculation. Yeah, but what you don't see in your games, Apostat, is the resilience that you see in these top players. That's what really makes the difference. Like, he had a completely lost position, and yet he just keeps on fighting on. And maybe giving up the queen was not the best idea from White, because White just doesn't have enough pieces to do what he wants to do. Yeah, this game goes on. They're still fighting. And then again, it looked like White was busted, out of pieces, but he's still fighting. Still fighting on. But notice Black King is actually pretty safe. Not clear. Not clear what white does. Okay, now that's a killer blow. Because how do you defend this rook on g1? This is a resignation. How do you defend that rook? You don't. So queen on the back rank. He just says, I'm safe, and you've only got pawns. But still they fight on. So, so just look how many pieces white has left. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces left. He only has 2 bishops, a knight, and a rook. And he finally succumbs. Okay, so we go. So SpinalTap takes it 6-4. I thought we were saying we go into tie breaks. Whoa! I mean, MiniGreat kind of blew what looked like a gorgeous position. What was the correct finish? Let's have a look. Bishop at c8, very smart looking move because you can't take it. So he has to defend. Takes, queen takes. Yeah, queen takes c7 is obvious. The threat is queen takes rook. So if you do nothing, queen takes rook, king takes. Oh yeah, just simple pawn and knight, and drop the queen, drop, and then smother mate. We'll get. So this rook needs to be defended somehow. So maybe something like this to defend with the bishop. The problem with that is just simply queen takes bishop, because then knight at c7 is a threat. So this is not a good defense. So what does black do to defend? Engine just wants to do crazy looking moves. That just doesn't work. Okay, so this takes, and then you have to, this just doesn't work. I mean, there's just nothing here. Yeah, it just doesn't work. So the problem is takes, and yeah, knight at b7, just drive the king out, queen at d8. Maybe you could take this one. You've got a pawn, a bishop, a rook. How do we finish this off? Okay, bishop and queen, cut off all of these squares. So it drives the king up to here. And now we have a rook in hand, so this is checkmate. That's it then, isn't it? That's so you don't take the knight. Maybe you go to c6, but then you have this nice pattern with the knight and queen. Now this is a very basic Crazyhouse pattern that you should all recognize. The queen defends the knight, and the knight covers the light squares, and the queen covers the dark squares, but also covers. So it covers the knight and queen together cover this little square here, but the queen also covers this row, this column, this row, and so it drives the king towards the knight, basically, to these squares, or to these squares. And if those squares are covered, then you're in good shape. So king b5 in this position, and bishop c6 is checkmate. And, oh yes, you make a good point. If queen takes bishop, why not knight takes queen? So then it's not a smother. Oh, that's true. So I'll just look what the engine says. It says bishop at c6, and again, if you block, there's a smother, so rook d7. Queen b8, if you block here, there's a smother because the rook is pinned. So you have to block on c8. Takes. Okay, so there's just, you're right, some whole horrible long line. He tries to run away and so on. Could try and block, but block, run, queen e5 check. So the queen cuts off this, the rook cuts off this, and there are no squares for the king. So you're right, that was more complicated. Okay, so SpinalTap goes through to face Bughouse Knight in the next round. So thanks everyone for watching.